Oh, well, hello. I'm here with Doug to talk about Transformers, among other things, and it is Tuesday, March 26, 2025. So I suppose you have to mention the biggest story rocking the whole world is, of course, the Trump administration um, leaked their secret war plans of the bombings in Yemen in a signal chat with a reporter watching it all at the Atlantic.
Wait,
Story.
Sam.
Yeah.
That's not the biggest story. The
You don't think
biggest
so?
story, no, this is even bigger.
Yeah?
DoorDash. You ever order with DoorDash?
I don't think so.
Yeah. Well, DoorDash, it's a delivery service. So you want an ice cream cone from Microsoft.
Yeah.
You pay $1 to Microsoft for the ice cream cone, and then they deliver it for, I don't know, $10, $15, something like that.
I have a feeling those dollar amounts can't be accurate.
Oh, I'm not sure what DoorDash charges. I've never
Yeah,
used it.
yeah.
But here's the thing, Sam. Let's say you want that McDonald's ice cream. You just got to have it, and you're going to get it delivered with DoorDash.
Then what you need
This
is
is
semi-glutide. Then you won't want that ice cream anymore. Anyway, go ahead.
no. You got to have the ice cream, right? So what did DoorDash do? They partnered with Klarna. Ever heard of Klarna? So
No?
you can so you can pay it over time. You can finance it over the next year. So you can't pay for the dollar ice cream.
Oh
You pay
man.
$20 to have it delivered, and now you can finance it over the next 12 months.
Well, I'm missing out on all these glorious things.
I know. Okay, now let's get to the second biggest story that you're talking about.
Oh well, all right. Yeah, so they it just shows what idiots are running our government. In case anybody didn't know, there are a bunch of TV celebrities that have no idea what the hell they're doing. So they use the unapproved app Signal. They add random people to the chat. Then they discuss confidential war planning on it without even noticing there's an extra guy in the chat. And they're not supposed to be using a consumer grade app for classified military secrets. And everything they do is supposed to be being archived. So it's all totally illegal. But everything Trump administration does is illegal. So.
Well, can't he pardon himself?
He may not be able to pardon himself, but the Supreme Court gave him a blank check anyway. He can break any law he wants. In fact, the thing that surprised me is the Supreme Court even explicitly said in arguments that he can send SEAL Team 6 to execute his political enemies. And I don't know why he hasn't done it yet. He could totally do that and get away with it. The Supreme Court rubber stamped that about 4 months ago. I have no idea why he hasn't. I imagine it won't be long before he finally realizes he totally could. But
Well, I think it's a matter of time.
I know. Since everything he does is for show, I guess he is thinking that it wouldn't look good quite yet. They need to make it a little more, they need to blacken the name of some of his enemies a little more. And then maybe he can
Yeah.
just start having
Yeah.
summary executions. I mean, they've already started disappearing people without trial, but they're immigrants. And they just canceled the immigration status of about 500,000 people that had the right to be here. They suddenly revoked that. So,
Well, that's going to solve the housing shortage.
yeah, I don't think so.
Keep
Yeah.
going. What else?
But anyway, so that people are, this is the same thing that happened basically every week in the previous Trump administration. The mainstream media is freaking out, full of headline stories, and Trump administration doesn't even care. So anyway, it does show these people are unfit for their jobs. In case anybody had any illusions about that.
Yeah, Sam, it's interesting. During the Clinton administration, didn't they claim, who was it? Was it Foster that they claimed Clinton bumped off, or the Clinton regime bumped
Oh,
off?
oh, I don't know. I saw various claims that they killed off people, which I think
Yeah,
were never
yeah,
justified. And of
right,
course, and
right,
of course, Hillary Clinton used the unapproved email server for government
right.
transmission, and they complained about that mightily. But here's Trump doing the same thing. Of course, it's like he did the same thing several times.
Yeah. I think wasn't it Vance Foster that it was claimed that the Clintons bumped off?
Well, I don't know.
Yeah, that was obviously a conspiracy, and
Yeah, yeah.
it was never proven. But it's interesting that with Clinton, they were talking about people getting bumped off.
Well,
And with Trump, we haven't heard that yet that I'm aware of.
well, one I heard from my friend who listens to this far right stuff is that they accuse the head of Zelensky in Ukraine of sending a hitman to kill Trump. And I said, boy, I don't know if that happened, but now that you mention it, that would not be an illogical move on his part. Getting rid of Trump would probably benefit Ukraine. I just think he's smart enough to know he can't get away with it. But anyway,
Yeah. 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 I just looked this up. Vincent Foster, Vance
yeah,
Foster, the strange death of
yeah,
Vincent Foster. He was White House deputy counsel, found dead in Fort Marcy Park in Virginia.
yeah. Well, there's a lot of mysterious
Unsolved
deaths.
mystery.
Yeah, yeah, oh yeah.
So, yeah.
I
So
see these pretty often.
it was Clinton's deputy counsel.
Mm. Yeah. Well, there are all these things. I guess now it's going to be a JFK assassination, right? All those papers came out again. So,
Yeah, how come we haven't found out that the FBI was involved? And you'd think all those unredacted papers,
yeah.
all these conspiracy theories for the past, what, 50 years,
Well,
60 years?
people say the new papers are just the old papers, and there's nothing actually new in it about the assassination, except they leaked everybody's personal data this time. That was the new reveal. Nothing useful. Anyway, in the same spirit of politics, of course,
Yeah.
yeah, Columbia totally caved. Everybody's caving in advance. So Trump went to the University of Columbia and said, "We're going to cut your funding if you don't change your DEI policies and crack down on pro-Palestinian protesters." And they just totally agreed to do all. And I'll take your entire Middle East department and put it like under act control so you make sure they don't send any messages we don't like. And Columbia just agreed to all that, which is horrible because, the Ivy League schools have endowments. They could, in fact, live without government money for a while. They could be setting an example of resistance against this fascist tyranny, and instead they just cave. And so the rest of the Ivy League remains silent, not even protesting. So they're going to be next. Just like the law firms, the universities are just hoping that by giving in to every demand of the tyrant, that they'll be spared punishment when any casual historical analysis will tell you the opposite is true. This will just
Yeah.
embolden him to do more and more. And if the people that could afford to push back don't push back, then he'll turn his attention to the lesser colleges that can't possibly afford to push back. And there's a article out. Yeah, I think in the New York Times. Let's see, might be Washington Post. Yeah, this is the Washington Post, but it's already happening that people who want to sue Trump can't find lawyers to represent them anymore because Trump has punished law firms that dare to be on the other side of him, like defending January 6 protesters. And so the law firms have all got the message that they can't take any case against Trump's goals, or they'll lose their security clearance, be barred from the White House, and lose all their business. So this is really pretty terrifying. I mean, when you can't even sue anybody and get a lawyer anymore, then you've really abandoned all pretense of fairness and the rule of law. You're just down to a dictator that just declares off with his head and
Yeah,
his
Sam,
word is law.
did we
Yeah.
I'm not sure if we talked about that, but there was a woman who created a law firm with her husband, and they're going after First Amendment rights. And they started around 2014, maybe 2012, in that range. They were very unsuccessful initially, but that allowed them to refine their process. And now, kind of like the cigarette companies, where they spread doubt and confusion, this law firm has now refined themselves, and they're the premier people to sue over First Amendment rights. And so companies are caving right now. Like journalists are caving, unless there's somebody like the New York Times.
So they perfected some kind of lawsuit like copyright infringement or something that scares everybody back.
Yeah, and it's funny if you go out on Google right now and you look for law firms for First Amendment, not defense, but prosecuting, you'll find a whole series of law firms out there that are
Prosec-
offering that service.
Prosecuting based on the First Amendment? What you mean? Like
Well,
if
in other
somebody is
words,
suppressing speech and they aren't allowed to do
yeah,
it?
yeah. So you're talking about Clinton,
Yeah,
right? That
not
the
Clinton.
university should have the freedom to teach whatever they want to teach, essentially.
Yeah, not
With some,
Clinton, but the university,
I'm sorry.
Columbia, Columbia. Yeah,
Yeah, Columbia,
yeah,
Columbia. Sorry,
that's right. They
thank
should
you.
have they should have academic freedom to teach things, even politically unpopular things, like supporting Palestine.
Right. So this woman, again,
Yeah,
create a law firm that's going after, sends out the threatening letter saying, we're going to sue you if you do this.
if you
Me-
block the
Meaning,
speech.
yeah, if you allow the speech to continue.
Oh,
Like
wait.
Trump's,
Oh, if you allow it to continue. Now, how's that a First Amendment issue?
well, in other words, the university doesn't have, I'm sorry, if the university allows it to continue,
Right,
they're suing to prevent that
right.
from
So they
Palestinian.
so they
Yeah,
have they have some kind of lawsuit that goes against the First Amendment and wins.
correct. And
That's interesting.
Trump with his movie with Netflix, he sued. He sued the actor, I believe.
Well,
There's
there
a
was, yeah, some movie about Trump he didn't like, he wanted to suppress.
yes, yes, yes.
And
So
so what argument is it that prevails against the First Amendment?
see that I've not looked into, and I
Yeah.
think I think there's it's sort of generic, but it needs to be modified for each individual kind of lawsuit. But what they're essentially doing is they're overwhelming, like Columbia University, or they're overwhelming small journalists,
Okay.
overwhelming small TV stations,
So it's
and
like
it's
slap suits. They just send you a bunch
yeah,
of lawsuits with no merit, but you give
yeah,
up because it would be too expensive to defend yourself.
yeah, yeah, exactly,
That I can understand.
yeah.
Actually,
Eh,
winning some case against the First Amendment is hard to grasp. I mean, the only argument I know that might make any sense, which is probably the one Trump is going to do, is that there's terrorism and international affairs involved, and this is an emergency like martial law or something. Uh, and I think there are, like the Alien and Enemy Sedition Act, that kind of thing. I think there are some legal bases for that. And he's expected to declare an emergency and martial law over immigration pretty soon to give himself the powers. And then I think you can legally suppress free speech for a limited time.
Yeah, and I can't remember, but the way she made a name for herself is I think she was on Fox News or CNN, and she became a correspondent, which made her essentially a household name,
Yeah.
if you will.
Yeah. Well, this is also how you get in the Trump administration. You become like a right-wing hero on TV, and then he'll put you in charge of something.
Yeah, and I can't remember her name. But anyway,
Yeah.
maybe I'll look that up.
Yeah. It'd be interesting to hear more
Um,
about that, and probably more important as we go ahead.
yeah, so what's important to know about this is she and her husband, they have their own law firm, they're a partnership now. She, where am I going with this? She's uh, she's considered the expert at doing this. I forgot
Yeah.
where I was going with that, but
That makes sense.
yeah, yeah,
Tricks and legal tricks.
yeah.
Yeah. Well,
All right. Anyway, what's your next story? You want? I got
yeah.
a story here. Let
Uh,
me give you
uh,
my next one.
sure. Go ahead.
So, not a big deal, but Vance announced that there's going to be a TikTok deal announced
TikTok.
for early
Oh,
April.
oh yeah.
Remember?
They sold it to Oracle or something.
Well, has it been announced?
No, I don't know. But that was, they said they would sell to an American company is what the most expected resolution of this would be.
Yeah, and boy, does that kind of stick the finger at Zuckerberg. Because,
Zuckerberg.
yeah,
Oh,
because
because
Zuckerberg is in competition with TikTok.
yeah, so he likes the TikTok ban.
Yeah, he's going after the TikTok ban.
Well, he'd have to cough up a bigger bribe to Trump to get that, bigger than the
Exactly.
TikTok bribe. Yeah. So
Plus, Zuckerberg wasn't in good graces with Trump in the last election,
right, right.
as we
Now,
know.
yeah, they all paid $1 to $14 million to appear on stage at the inauguration, but I don't know if they bribed him enough to actually move him to their side. TikTok got in about 3 months ago bribing Trump.
Right,
So,
right.
it's all just a matter of how much cash and who's first.
Yeah, and as what we saw, what happened is Trump, it was supposed the ban was supposed to go into effect.
right before
The
Trump got
ban,
in. Yeah.
right? TikTok did remove the app, but didn't take down the site, so no new users.
Yeah, actually, I think it was Apple and Google that took down the app because they felt like they might be legally exposed.
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
TikTok did anything, but then Trump immediately said he wasn't going to enforce it. So after a couple of weeks, they put it back.
No, it wasn't a couple weeks. It
Okay.
was much quicker. Anyway,
Yeah.
they put it back on,
Yeah.
and the lawsuit still about the ban can continue, and that can go beyond Trump's presidency.
But TikTok
But
continues to be very popular. I hear about it all
yeah,
the time. I can't use it because I'm a government contractor. I can't put it on my device, but everybody's using it like crazy.
yeah. So I don't know. We'll
Yeah.
see. I can't wait. The
Yeah.
suspense is killing me.
Well, I never could get any good out of it anyway. I used it for like a week and all I could find was advertisements. Apparently, their super efficient algorithm doesn't work for like old fossils like me. I think it's designed for teenagers. Anyway,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. What's your next story?
well, I get down to information security. It was an interesting Mastodon thread from one of the guys
Yes.
that got fired. So, wonder if he actually gave me his name. Uh, John Skiles Skinner says he built the government AI system, then Doge fired him. And what he built was a prototype called the AI Sandbox. So you could make a government app and test it out to see how it worked. And he said everybody was pretty afraid of it and impressed by how the AI stuff doesn't work and isn't fit for use. But after they fired him, the Doge team took his tool and said, "This is the greatest thing ever," and started demonstrating it to show how wonderful their AI tool is. And he said the demonstration they gave to impress everybody was they just talked, they asked it to make a government website, and it just quickly made a website, which was a complete piece of trash. The header saying our company, not meeting any of the government compliance regulations. And all the people involved said, "Boy, I feel better now. I was afraid my job would be replaced by AI. This piece of trash is producing nothing useful at all." But he said all the Doge people are raving and saying, "This is great. This proves this is the greatest thing ever." They're showing off, his prototype beta thing as if it was a huge accomplishment of the Doge team. So anyway, it's interesting to hear the inside story, which is about what you'd expect. Um, and so I thought that was interesting.
Okay.
And I got another one which is pretty amazing. So Oracle got hacked. On 21st of March, I guess a few days ago, a user went on breach forums and claimed he'd hacked Oracle. He offered a whole bunch of Oracle data for sale, and he had proof, which was a file he uploaded to Oracle servers with his email address on it, one of those tags that says, hacked by this guy's name or something.
Yeah. Yeah.
And an independent research company verified all this stuff, verified like a sample of 10,000 records, and Oracle said, "Nope, we didn't get hacked. It's all just a lie." So this reminds me of when, LinkedIn got hacked maybe 10 years ago, and they tried to spend like 3 weeks or so claiming they hadn't been hacked when everybody, including me, was downloading the data, finding my password in the data, saying, "Dude, you've been hacked." They're saying, "No, no, no, it's all fake." They say, "Dude, this is my real password. You've been hacked." Anyway,
So, Sam, this is like the cigarette companies denying that cigarette smoking causes cancer, or sugar industry that obesity is going to happen from the added sugar.
well, they haven't got as good a defense. They, instead of
True.
having a whole industry to create doubt, I think what happens is typically the same. Some lawyer will respond quickly with a denial, and then they don't apparently have an effective instant response team to determine the truth. Although Oracle claims to be a major cloud security provider, that's the thing. They really ought to know better than this. They really ought to have instant response team, and they ought to also understand that this is totally the wrong way to respond. Now, this is quite
Yeah.
common that people respond to an incident in the wrong way and just make it worse. What you say is, "We're investigating it. We're not sure." That's a much better thing to say.
Well, no, if you deny it initially, sounds better. And then you soften it.
Well,
Well, we're investing, possibly we're investigating, but highly unlikely.
I mean, the
And then
fact is,
once it becomes last week's story, then that's when you spill the beans and you say, okay, we were hacked.
Well, yeah, but if you say something that's obviously provably wrong, then you're humiliated. If you just give a bland statement like, well, we're investigating it, and anyway.
Yeah, but when you finally admit that
Yeah.
you've been hacked, you come up with another news story to distract everybody.
Yeah, well, I guess they're going to have to try something like that now.
Yeah, so this is going to be interesting with Oracle to see how bad this attack is.
Yeah, it sounds pretty bad.
Yeah, it does to me too.
Yeah.
Does to me too.
And of course, we don't know all the details, but I'm sure in the next week or two, it'll all come
It'll
out.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
But like I said, by that time it's old news.
Yeah, well, but then the question is, how many people are going to trust Oracle with security critical information? This is the kind of scandal you don't really want. And
Yeah,
there are other providers, and there are going to be arguments saying, why are we buying Oracle when they appear to be idiots? Let's go with like Microsoft or something.
yeah, but here's the problem, Sam. Once you're in the Oracle camp, the Microsoft
Well,
camp,
yeah.
the IBM,
Then there's a
you
huge,
switch over.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, that's
yeah,
a point. They have a captive audience like VMware. I mean, after Broadcom bought VMware, they just multiplied the price by like a factor of 10, and people complained, but most of them just stayed for that reason.
yeah,
It'd be too much
yeah.
bother to move to something else.
Yeah, Southwest is doing that. They're now going to
Right.
charging for baggage and now
Right.
assigned seating, so they're
Right.
just going to be like every other airline.
Yep. And
And
I just read an article defending this, saying that, they had an activist investor demanding that they raise their profits. They say, well, the only way to do that is to quit being differentiated and just become just like all the rest. So that's what they're doing.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So we'll
Too
see how
bad.
that works out.
Too bad. I was a regular Southwest customer because they treated you better. Now I guess I'll just pick a random airline like before, except I learned to avoid Frontier. Holy crap. Frontier and Spirit. Frontier and Spirit are so terrible. I actually avoid them, but other than that, they're all the same.
I flew Frontier once, and God, you're sitting on like a wooden seat, aren't you?
Well, I just couldn't even like log in and get my boarding pass, and then I showed up halfway through my trip, and they just canceled the flight without even telling you, and
Oh,
and
oh,
stuff like that. I mean, it's pretty annoying. I'm sitting here waiting for the flight. It never comes. Then I log online. There's like a generic page. Oh, your flight is canceled. You have to choose one of these two options. Then I click the wrong option. They say, okay, you don't get any money back either because you chose the wrong option. And I'm like, what?
yeah. Well, here's the thing with Frontier, it's inexpensive. If you don't check your bags online, the
Yeah,
price doubles
yeah,
almost or
yeah,
nearly
yeah,
doubles. Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah. They
yeah.
rip you off right and left, and you can't ever get any customer service. And I was horrified. So
Yeah, but I got to tell you, the seats there are just ridiculous.
yeah, well, I was quite comfortable sitting in the airport anyway. So,
No, that's the best place
but
to
that was
sit.
not the goal. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, it doesn't get you anywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, Sam, they were like the original BART seats, if I remember right.
Oh,
Fiberglass, and they cover it with a little thin layer of foam.
well, yeah, yeah.
All
Yeah.
right, what's next on
Well,
your list
if
here?
the only thing you look at is the price, that's what you expect, the lowest possible result. All right. So, well, this is pretty amazing. You know Troy Hunt, probably. He's really famous. A Microsoft-oriented researcher from Australia. He has the do not, have you been pwned list of all the passwords. And
Yeah,
there's a
okay.
whole lot of talks and trainings about Microsoft security. He got phished yesterday. So it's important to realize nobody is safe. He has MailChimp. He has a mailing list of some large number of people that he sends regular updates and newsletters out to. And so he got a message saying there's been a spam complaint. Your sending privileges have been revoked. Click on this link. So that's what they do. They get you emotional. So he clicked on the link to log into MailChimp, and his password manager didn't fill in the password automatically, but he was upset, so he filled it in manually. Of course, the reason it didn't fill in automatically, because instead of
Because
like MailChimp.com, it was like MailChimp-SSO.com or something, which
yeah,
wasn't really MailChimp. But if he's upset, wait, they're freezing my account. That's what they do. They get you upset. And then you say, "Oh, well, I'll just paste it in because it must be some glitch." And
right.
you don't think, "Oh, wait a minute now. If it doesn't fill it in, that means I'm getting phished." And then he got in and he said, "Oh, crap." He immediately realized what happened. So he immediately went in and changed his password, but It was an automated script. So in the time it took him to change the password at MailChimp, there was already a message saying, oh, there's been an unauthorized login from this other location. Oh, your upload of all your data has succeeded. And he's like, no. So they got his whole MailChimp list. So all those people are probably going to get spammed now. And he sent out a message apologizing. So it's a thing to be aware of. Nobody is safe. Nobody is immune. The bad guys will
Wow.
catch you at a moment of vulnerability when you're just sort of tired or something and trick you.
Yeah, this is like a modern magician, right? Distract over here while
Yeah.
you're doing
Yeah.
something over there.
Yeah. And the thing
Or,
is, I mean, one thing people often used to imagine is because they're smart, they won't fall for advertising or tricks or get conned or get sucked into a cult or anything or get tricked by, a faker like Uri Geller that pretends to have psychic powers. And the fact is, intelligence and education do not protect you from any of these things.
yeah, yeah,
Everybody is vulnerable. And social engineering, romance scams.
yes.
The fact is, these are just human emotions. People can trick you with basic human emotions, and training and education doesn't stop that. Of course, important in information security. People keep having these phishing tests and these employee security training videos, hoping they'll stop their employees from clicking on links. And I don't know how much effect they have, but they can't be 100% effective ever.
Oh, Sam, the ones I've seen are so poor. They're just the phishing schemes, the emails are just so obvious.
Well, actually, I felt pretty good when I saw them. In fact, I once clicked on one, so I felt like it does raise awareness of spam. Those ones where they send you an email every couple of weeks trying to trick you into clicking on the link. I felt like that was actually somewhat useful, at least for me. I saw
Oh,
them,
okay,
and then
okay.
eventually, then one day I clicked on one and actually got the message, "You shouldn't have clicked on that." And I said, "Oh, you're right. I forgot to worry about that." But I
Yeah.
don't, I don't know. Just my personal feeling is it did make me a little more aware.
Well, the training videos that I've seen, the mail messages are just overly fake
Yeah.
and they're not realistic. And so I don't think, I think they're so poorly created. It's by somebody that doesn't really know, or they're trying to teach really elementary skills and they need to be teaching more sophisticated. And they,
But
they
yeah,
could they could do it in the same amount of time.
yeah. Well, this is, I think, like the problem that I have in my classes. I have people at many different levels. So
Yeah,
there's
right.
people who are rank beginners, and there's people who are pretty advanced, and it's difficult to see how you can send a message that would be appropriate for both of them.
Well, but you're sending out multiple messages, you're
Yeah.
doing multiple trainings. So
Yeah.
anyway, all
Yeah.
right, let's move on.
Yep.
I,
Yep.
I got one for you.
Yeah.
Man, do school phone bans actually work?
Oh, where he tells students not to. Well, I imagine they just sneak in their phone anyway, but I don't know.
Yeah, yeah, but have the bans actually worked? Are students' grades improving
Oh,
because there was a ban that was put in
oh,
place?
well, I didn't even know it was about grades. I thought it was to stop harassment on social networks. But anyway, go ahead.
No, no, this is about grades.
Oh, okay. I have no idea.
Yeah, so the answer is not really.
Well, so the people who aren't paying attention because they're texting without the phone, they would just not pay attention some other way, right?
Correct. That apparently that's what's going on. So
Yeah.
grades do not improve, but on the other side of this, is typical, when something controversial like this comes out, the other side says, "Well, let's see your data, and this study wasn't done very well."
Well, it's hard to do a
So,
study. And to be fair,
right.
you can't really do an easily controlled study unless you could have the same time in the same class. I can see how you could easily criticize the study. But, the thing I'd say is certainly because I am a teacher, that's my job, you have to make the class fun. You have to make it interesting. You have to make it relevant to the students. I mean, the number one problem is they say, this stuff is boring. I'll never use algebra anyway. Why am I wasting my time on this junk? That's the main reason students don't learn, in my opinion.
Yeah, yeah,
You
yeah.
have to somehow make it fun and interesting.
As an instructor, you're an entertainer
Yeah.
that's transmitting knowledge.
Yeah, that's what I always tell people. This profession is a branch of stand-up comedy.
It is.
You have to keep
It
them
is.
interested. It has to be fun. And, if it's just like if people teach information security and it's boring, and I was amazed when I heard that. How can you make this stuff boring? It's full of these crazy hackers wearing costumes, dumping out stuff. Of course, a few years ago, it was anonymous videos. It was like living inside a comic book. How could it possibly be boring? But if you
Right.
try hard enough, you can make it boring. Memorize port numbers or something.
Yeah, yeah, right, right. And yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
But you know, you can make it fun and entertaining,
yeah,
and there are ways of doing that.
yeah. Well, I think
And
my secret is you have to really care yourself. You have to really be having fun. Then people
yeah,
will want to, if you hate it, then they will hate it too.
yeah, yeah, I'm with you. All
Yeah.
right. Anyway, I'm sure we'll see many, many more studies
Yeah,
come out
well,
about that.
yeah, as far as I know, the point of phone bans, yeah. Anyway, you can argue. I know Scott Galloway is always wanting to age gate social media, claiming that the students get bullied and everything, and it's bad for them on social media. And that would be smartphone bans is probably the only way to actually accomplish that.
Well, but they just do it at home, or they do it
Yeah.
out, outside of school hours.
Yeah, he wants them to have some kind of age gate. The problem is
Oh,
knows
oh,
that
oh, oh,
nobody
right,
knows
right,
how to
right.
age
Yeah.
gate anything. I mean, they're trying to age gate pornography, and the fact is there's no way to prove your age online. So this is like a false solution offered that is not really available technically.
Yeah, yeah. Now I understand where
Yeah.
you're going with
Yeah.
that. Right,
Anyway,
right.
I want to get to the one that I thought was actually the most important story of my stories, none of which stand out that much, which is there's a huge problem deploying electricity in America and also in the UK. The people like when X.AI made a new data center in Tennessee, they had huge problems getting the power. And it turns out that all around the nation, and I think other nations too, power rollouts are being greatly held back by a lack of transformers. The large transformers needed at the power stations are for some reason very hard to build, and there's been a 1 year backlog when ordering one, and now it's a 3 to 5 year backlog ordering one. And that's what's holding back the rollout of high-tech things. And of course, with electric cars coming on and everything, I've been hearing for the last year that there's a huge problem scaling up the power grid. And this seems to be the problem, which I never would have guessed. I thought that old-fashioned technology, they must like have a factory making a lot of them, but there's a shortage of transformers. This is on this is from Bloomberg. And that's that Heathrow just had an outage because a transformer blew. And they say it's very hard to get replacement transformers for anything and very hard to get transformers to roll out. I don't know what the problem is. How can it be so difficult? But apparently,
Hmm.
somehow our supply chain is not good enough in the UK or in America to make enough transformers. And people are waiting years for them.
Yeah, this is the first I've ever heard of this,
I
and I'm
know.
looking online. Yeah.
Because I mean,
So
this technology is 50 years old. It seems like we would have perfected this
wait,
by now of making it.
Sam, 50 years old?
Even more, yeah.
More like 120.
I know. Well, I mean, I assume they're using different materials than they used to use, but the fact is, I mean, how hard can it be?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I'm thinking it must be economic, where there wasn't enough demand to justify enough plants.
Well, here's the thing. Cisco was partnering with the power companies, and they came up with a new protocol that they were going to use to monitor the power grid, transformer temperatures, things along those lines.
Yeah.
And nobody wanted it,
Yeah,
right?
this has happened a lot. Like I remember when Google brought out their search engine, and the existing search engine said, "Oh, we don't need a better product."
Right, right.
And so I
But
guess,
but
yeah,
but unlike a search engine, who's going to pay for all the new transformers? Who's going to
yeah,
pay, right?
yeah,
When
that's
it's
the
work
issue.
when it's equipment that's working fine.
Yeah, and that's
Who wants to pay for undergrounding
yeah,
of power
exactly,
lines when
exactly.
you got power coming to your house already? And yeah, there's a wildfire issue and aesthetics, but do you really want to pay,
That's
to have
yeah.
that?
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's why I
yeah,
assume it's an economic issue like that, where there's been a
yeah.
huge increase in demand for power, but it hasn't been enough time to scale up the manufacturing facilities to catch up with it. Or they don't want to invest because they figure this demand won't keep increasing, and then that factory will sit idle. I would assume it's something like that, but I'm only guessing.
Yeah, yeah. So I might take a look at that. I might have
Yeah.
an answer for you.
Yeah, you might be the one to figure out what happened here. That's
Yeah, it's
never, I
it's
didn't see that coming. I have heard for the last year or two that there's going to be a huge problem scaling up the American power grid to meet the demands of AI and electric cars. And I guess this is the bottleneck.
but it's interesting that all of a sudden it just popped up.
Yeah, well, I
Uh,
mean, Yeah. I mean, now it's
Nobody
regional grid.
forecasted this. Nobody 6 months, a year ago said,
Well,
there's going to be a transformer
no,
shortage.
I saw an article like over the last year or two saying that there isn't enough capacity in the American power grid and it's going to take years to scale up. But I didn't see any details as to why it's going to take years.
Yeah, then and the complaints that I heard is there's not enough wire, like transmission lines, which kind of didn't make
Now,
sense
yeah,
to
that's what I
me.
thought. Now you mention that doesn't make any sense either because you can just move more power through the existing lines. It's not like they're at the capacity.
Yeah, 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 yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
I
yeah,
was thinking maybe you need to have to build more generators, like nuclear generators or something, and that will take like a decade.
yeah.
I think that's
It,
also a problem.
yeah, and yeah, it's interesting about I just watched there's a guy by the name of Zeke. He has a website called the-lookout.org, and he gave a really good analysis of California's water. That was right after the fires in LA when Trump was saying, "Why can't we just divert the water?"
Yeah, open the
And
spigot. Yeah.
yeah, and the answer is because the water system that Trump wanted to divert to LA was something like 100 feet lower than the one that is going to LA right now. And to transfer, you'd have to water would have to run uphill, is
Yep.
essentially what
Yep.
goes on. So obviously that's not going to happen. But he was talking about all the different major rivers in California and where we're getting hydroelectric power, how the rivers flow along the things along those lines.
Yeah.
Um, and it really comes down to we haven't opened up a new reservoir in California since the late 60s, 70s.
Yep.
And the last one that we were going to build was off of Highway 80 up in Forestville. Uh, let's see, which is around Colfax on the way to Tahoe. They built the road so you can see that they were about ready to build the dam, and so they rerouted the roads, and they're very high above the where the bottom of the reservoir would be. But they canceled it, and from my understanding, that's the last natural place in California that we can build a reservoir.
Yeah. Well, this Ezra Klein is now doing he written a book and he's doing all the talk shows claiming
Yeah.
that there's a fundamental problem with blue state governance, that they block every construction project with one complaint or another. So you can't get anything done like build more housing. And we really need to be more efficient at approving things, which is a pretty good argument.
Yeah, but on the flip side, that whole area has turned into this nice recreational area,
Yeah.
and people flock there
Yep.
because of, it's just its natural beauty. It's a river just
Yeah.
north of Sacramento. So
Yeah. Well, we do need more housing, though. That's why we have all the homeless people. And so, anyway, we'll see.
yeah, yeah, we'll see. We'll see what
But
happens.
it's all related to similar things. Like, even though people are really mad at Trump and the Republicans, they're even more mad at the Democrats. They haven't, because they say Democrats seem to be a bunch of dithering idiots not doing anything to stop him. And I think it's a good point. I think people right now feel like both parties are useless. And this,
Well,
and that's why I'm hearing a lot of people say we're basically facing a Tea Party moment in the Democratic Party. We're just going to throw the bums out and have a new generation of elected representatives. I would like to see that. I tend to agree. The existing old elected representative seems to be useless. So,
well, Trump might be the person that, is going to cause those dominoes to fall on both parties.
well, he's definitely a disruptor, like a bull in a china
Yeah,
shop. If
yeah.
so, uh, there'll be that aspect. Perhaps the recovery will change some things for the better. I don't think so, though. I think he's kicking down everything good. Anyway.
Yeah, but that's change.
Oh, yeah,
People
yeah,
don't,
yeah. If you wanted change, you're getting
you're
change.
getting
That's
change.
true. Just,
That's my point.
asking for
Yeah.
change is like, when the genie gives you three wishes. Oh, hey, here's a change. I'm burning down your house. How do you like that? That's a change, isn't it?
All right, so I got one. You brought this up last time. Alphabet, Starlink, or yeah, Alphabet, which is Google's
Google.
parent company, right? Starlink competitor Tara is spinning off to be an independent company. And we'll see. This is the one that's using lasers,
Right. Free
right?
space optics. Instead of
Yeah.
satellites, just light from pole to pole, so much cheaper than a satellite.
Yeah, and I did a little bit of reading. They're the size of a stoplight,
Yeah.
and it's just optical. So
Yeah.
we'll see. This is like another war over what network system is going to win.
Yeah.
And it turned out for the internet, it was Ethernet and 802 pardon me,
Uh,
802.11 for Wi-Fi,
yep.
right?
Yep.
So we'll see what standard comes out. Are we going to go? We could be both.
Yeah. Well, for a while it'll be both, and then there'll be competition, and maybe one will win. I mean, these
Yeah.
satellites, satellites serve a larger area, but they're much more expensive to put up. They don't last very long. There's all the problem of collisions and crowding up the
Yeah.
space. So maybe just using towers on the ground would be a better answer.
But then, Starlink, if they're Earth mounted or Earth base mounted, that means you're not going to be able to have service out in the ocean.
That's true. That's true. Out in
Yeah.
the ocean, I think there's no alternative to satellite.
Yeah. 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 Or rural places. Yeah. Well,
Originally, they were going to use
lasers.
balloons, but it turned out they couldn't get clearance for all those balloons for this one, so they switched to Earth-based towers.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Oh, right. Right. I remember hearing about the balloons. All right. You got
yeah.
anything else?
Nope, that's it for me.
Nope. Okay. That's it for me too, except let me leave you with one story. Do you remember
Yeah,
the guy who crashed his plane? And
deliberately
for
to
the
make.
YouTube video, yeah.
Yeah,
Apparently, he's been released from prison. So he's out in the wild again. And he's kind of out to his old tricks again.
is he going to
Nothing,
do it again?
I don't know. But
That would really be.
yeah, so just remember if we go back in time, he took off from someplace LA area and an older plane that he purchased for a couple $1,000s. He's a skydiver, and he claimed over Los Angeles National Forest that the engine cut out. And am I going to try and restart it? Nope. Do I see a landing spot? Well, if you look at the video cameras, you could see several places where he could have landed that plane. But he immediately said, "Oh, good thing I'm wearing a parachute. I'm jumping out and I'm going to let the plane crash." And as he jumped out, it was you could see what appeared to be fire extinguishers taped to his ankles under his uh, under his clothing. So at least he had some fire extinguishers. But the odd thing is that he had cameras everywhere. He had a selfie stick, and you watched the plane go and crash. Nothing spectacular happened. And instead of hiking out, he goes to the plane. He retrieves the cameras.
Yeah,
Then he deceived the FAA, didn't announce to them that there was a plane crash, but then he got a buddy of his and they got a helicopter. Or I guess he did tell the FAA, but he didn't specify where it was. He got a buddy, he got a helicopter, they got the plane, he cut it up, disposed of it, and on and on and on. So he was found guilty of lying to the FAA and crashing a plane and blah
yeah,
blah. I should argue he littered in a national forest,
yeah.
but
He broke a whole bunch of laws. It's
yeah,
interesting to me is I wonder how much
yeah,
money do you make from a viral YouTube video? I guess it must be a lot.
yeah. He was making a lot of money, and I think that one, reached the point where people are outraged and other people were looking at it,
Yeah.
analyzing it. But you know,
Yeah, just, his
anyway,
motivation is the amount of money from the video. And I would think it better be a lot of money to justify so many outrageous crimes. Anyway,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
but I know
Well,
there's idiots. There's people that rob a liquor store for 20 bucks. I mean, there's people that just make dumb decisions.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And apparently he's made several dumb decisions.
Obviously. I mean, committing a crime and making a video of it is a poor business plan in the first place.
Well, that's where police are finding a lot of criminals who are like robbing stores is
Yeah.
they do it and they post on Facebook or TikTok
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
Instagram. All
Yeah.
right, Sam, that's it. Let's
Okay.
let's
Yep.
call a
That's it.
wrap on this one. We'll see you on Friday.
Yeah. Okay.